watch on my phone, or I can fucking still watch and while I'm getting ready for bed.
I'm so confused.
I don't know what you're confused about.
You said you're going to stream YouTube.
That is
As in,
exactly
you're going to
what I
stream
said.
YouTube on
That is
Twitch,
100% what I said to you.
right? And you said you have nothing better to do. Correct? So sleep.
Motherfucker, I'm getting ready for bed. I'm going to watch YouTube anyways. Why not stream it and get my average up? I don't know what's confusing.
Well, now it's not confusing because I thought you meant like you're just going to stream it. I don't know.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm streaming it, watching it.
You're not
Do a
streaming.
little commentary here and here. I am streaming again. I just started it. 1 minute.
Yep. Oh yeah, you're on. Oh, let's see this.
A part of this video was sponsored by Google Meet. Hey, I've got a riddle.
See what YouTube. I built a failed invention.
Yeah, it's William Osmond.
What are you watching?
It's William Osmond, bro.
I don't know who that is.
It's William Osmond.
Hamster vest.
A part of this video was sponsored by Google Meet. Hey, I've got a riddle for you. Die of
Don't tell me you have YouTube Premium.
I do have YouTube Premium.
fuzzy and doesn't live long enough to die of old age.
Nerd.
Hamsters.
Why
I
pay
feel bad for
a
them,
streaming service?
but I think I might be able to make
why
their
don't
lives
you use
better
Spotify?
by building this
When
awesome
I am
patent
going
for a
to also
hamster
pay for
vest
music
I
and
found on
also
the internet.
And also YouTube is like way superior than
You got a whole head over here.
I'm somewhat of an inventor myself. Just earlier today I made a custom power
Using
cable for my
YouTube?
printer because I lost the proper one.
What's that?
First I connected
Using YouTube? That's what old people do.
I don't even know what we're talking about.
fuzzy and doesn't live long enough to die of old age.
Who the hell
Hamster.
built that?
I feel bad for them,
Hamster vest.
but I think I might be able to make their lives better by building this awesome patent for a hamster vest I found on the internet.
What is this?
I'm somewhat of an inventor myself. Just earlier today I made a custom power cable for my printer because I lost the proper one. First I connected 2 alligator clips to the power pins. It's important to use different color wires so you can tell which wire is which from a glance. Then I found 2 forks and bent all but one prong on both. Next, I attached the other end of the alligator clips to the forks. Now all I need to do is plug the forks into the wall outlet behind my computer, and the electricity will travel up through the fork, through the alligator clip, and into the printer. It only took a few tries, but I was able to get the printer working. I am legally obligated to tell you that this outlet was installed specifically for this joke, and it's actually connected to 2 car batteries. Patent number 5901666, filed by Bryce Belisle in 97, patent granted in 99, pet display clothing.
Like the most random
Patent is
YouTube
relatively
video.
expensive to file. I think, several thousand to tens of thousands of dollars. It's art. There's legal fees. I mean, there's literally a filing attorney. There's a primary examiner. There's references to other patents. Like, a lot of research goes in to filing a patent. To provide pet display clothing having one or more, at least partially transparent, enclosed pet receiving passageways or tunnels extending across surface thereof, so that pets traversing the passageways or tunnel can be viewed by a spectator while the clothing is worn by a person. This hamster vest was designed by an exhibitionist. Circular animal admitting ports, hemicylindrical, pet bar enclosure plugs. It's a freaking hamster vest. We break it down, it's pretty simple too. There's just two shoulder tubes that kind of split off and do a Y towards his nipples.
Oh, I thought it was a vest for
pouches
hamsters.
food and
As in
poop
the
reasons.
hamsters are
You know how
wearing
gerbils
it.
work, they're just gonna poop everywhere. You can't. At the surface, this seems kind of stupid, but maybe there's something really good in here. There's no need to reinvent the wheel, so I bought $200 worth of hamster tubes and started pouring them out all over my favorite table. I filmed a few different angles and edited the footage to make pouring last longer, trick you into thinking I've got an insane amount of hamster tubes.
Right. Well, you have fun
this is
watching
what
YouTube.
$200 gets you.
Oh my God.
They're expensive, which is crazy
Have a
considering
good
the
rest of the day.
actual hamster cost around $20. Except for this crap hamster. I should be able to build the hamster vest out of these tubes without doing much work. They clip together with this plastic ring and swivel corners to make more complex angles. Here's a quick time lapse of the pieces building on the vest. This is the end of the time lapse. My hands. I don't think it's possible to actually take it off the skeleton and wear it myself. It didn't matter how gentle I was or how hard I tried. Every time I'd connect one piece, two others would pop out. I could not get the tubes to stay on my body without falling apart.
I don't want to watch that.
Start with the roll of duct, wax dental floss, brush off the unused uranium, you should be good.
Still remember after all these years. Locked. And I want to stress, this is for emergency use only. Like if you want to play Mario Kart in Scott Glacier's dorm and he's not home. I still got it.
And so with mischief managed, it was back to work.
Wow, that is minuscule.
And at this size, we had to use a microscope to see what was going on.
Can we fire this thing?
Absolutely.
And on top of that, there's no possible way I would have the dexterity to load it up with tweezers, so we used a micro manipulator instead, where each turn of these knobs will move the needle probe fractions of a millimeter in any one of three directions.
All right, now continue going down.
Oh my gosh.
And it feels a little bit like defusing a bomb because you have to be so incredibly careful, since the slightest turn of a knob in the wrong direction
Oh no.
oh no, can immediately destroy the delicate carbon nanotubes. Which reminds me, I forgot to mention this version of the Nerf gun is actually grown from carbon nanotubes because there just aren't many other ways to make something this small and precise. It's a two-step process Bridget walked me through where you start in a clean room and use photolithography to create a pattern on a silicone wafer very similar to the process of making microchips. Then for step 2, using the wafer as a mask, you get a thin layer of iron in the spots where you want the tubes to grow. Then you put it in a furnace and then blow very specific gases over it at very hot temperatures. The whole process only takes about 8 hours,
NASA
but when you're done, you're
scientist,
left with incredibly precise, tiny little structures.
Cause like, he worked on one of the Mars rovers,
The smallest firing
and
of a
doing
Nerf
stuff
gun
like that.
ever.
So he
In
makes like
3,
all these really
2,
cool experiments and
1.
all this like really cool stuff. You should really watch him on YouTube.
Well done,
Mark Rober.
team. It's kind of like it's there, and
Yeah.
then it's not there.
There's just something so satisfying about
The one
some
video I'm
quiet
watching, he
mechanism design still
literally is
function
making the
just
world's
as well,
largest,
even when
world's
it's 100
smallest
times
Nerf
smaller
dart.
than the original.
Nerf
With
gun.
that out of the way, all that was left was to challenge
made the
an
biggest
ant
one,
to a Nerf
And now
battle.
he just
This
made the
is
smallest one,
actually
like
the
literally the
perfect
size of
scale
an
for
ant.
And I actually
Actually,
tried to
it's
start some
smaller
beef here
than
by
the size of
firing
an
a
ant.
dart his way. But he was seemingly unintimidated.
Hey, get back here. Wow! Oh, he took it!
Okay, he was definitely unintimidated.
He took my gun! Now you guys made one an order of magnitude
Chill
smaller
up, dude.
That's a tiny ass robot, my guy.
But before we get to that,
See.
you should know that the water fight equivalent to the world's largest
I was getting
Nerf
really
gun
stressed
is the
out
world's
as,
largest Super Soaker. And sadly,
As the
you can no longer
victims,
buy
so
normal
Cody
Super
was
Soakers,
kind
but we
enough to
designed
let us
something
play
that's
as the
better
killers.
for 2 reasons. Number 1, you get to put it together yourself so you actually understand
It's so
and see
stressful.
how it works. And number 2, there's a
Never
secret
intentional to do
because
either
after you
one.
spray
It
your
was just
brother,
whatever
you do the
one
right
gave
thing
us.
and give him a free shot in return. But before you pass it over, you just
Thankfully, we're the
turn
killers.
this valve. Then you watch
Because now I'm
yourself
Johnny
run.
and I'm happy and I'm
And
walking
then
around.
And if you want to experience
When
the
I-
story for yourself, then you're going to have to get a Crunch Labs Build Box subscription where you get a super
sissy.
fun toy every month, which comes with a video where I teach you all the juicy physics that make the toy work. So if you want to have a ton of fun while learning to think and to prank like an engineer,
What a fluid for Grandpa to have.
crunchLabs.com to learn more. Back to breaking world records, it was once again time to shrink down
Not
by a
enough.
factor
Grandpa
of
wants
10,
more.
which makes this spec
Grandpa
right
required-
here
Grandpa
1,000
requires
times
more
smaller
blood.
than a normal Nerf gun.
When you go to offer
Oh,
alert,
they're coming up the
So in order
stairs.
to
They're
truly
coming up the stairs.
appreciate the proper scale
They're coming up
here,
the
I had to
stairs.
make a sacrifice.
Facing like 2 of them.
Got one. Oh,
when you go to offer alert,
look at
I
that.
literally hop
Now, admittedly,
on
these are
and
just the
make it
outline
go.
without the internal compliant
You fucking
mechanism. In
bitch.
part because even if it were there, it's just too small,
One
so
just
we'd
want
have
the
no
front
way
door,
to actually
Cody.
cock it back and pull the trigger. And so for the fourth and final
Don't
world
other
record,
one.
it was time to
Alright.
shrink down one last time by a factor of 10 to land us at 10,000 times smaller than a normal Nerf gun. Now I just had to find it.
And is that on here as
Check
well?
his footsteps now.
No.
Oh,
5 of those
there you are.
across one of my incredibly unhealthy looking hairs.
Got him.
And at this point, we had to
Little
upgrade to their
bitch.
electron microscope to properly appreciate
Yeah.
the
Die.
scale here as
Die.
Ivy walked
Yep.
me through
I
the
killed
resulting
Leland.
images.
Wow, that's a cool shot.
And that's a human hair there, but to even appreciate how
There was
small
3 of them that were running out that door when I came down to it.
Outside, and you
Yeah,
can see at
out
this
right
scale,
here.
it looks like a giant alien monster
keep
by
it.
comparison. I also found it fascinating to see what the carbon
about to
nanotubes
feed
actually
Grandpa.
look like when you zoom in this much. And so without the aid of an electron microscope, that final world record Nerf gun is an imperceptible speck a fifth the width of my hair right here. And that's insanely tiny. But in an effort to do a better job at protecting this record from
Yeah, no, I got off.
I
got
knew
off
I
to
had
make
go
food.
even smaller.
And then
not
the
just
second
an
time I got
additional
off,
10 or 20
I got off to
times
relax and
smaller.
chill
We're
with Mary
talking
for a while.
300
Did some
times
art stuff. I
smaller.
painted
That
a
makes
pumpkin.
it 3 million
Little
times
zombie
smaller than
pumpkin
a
thing.
normal Nerf gun. It's
Show you a
so
picture of it. It's
small,
the
in
first
fact,
time I
that
painted
a
something in a
single drop
long
of
time.
liquid like this could contain
I'm
trillions of them.
horrible.
And I
I
know
look
what
like
you're
a 2-year-old.
thinking. Mark,
Oh, I found
that's
him.
crazy.
Over
And
here
at
up
that
front.
scale, you basically
Over
need
here
to
up
fold
front.
a DNA helix into the shape of a Nerf gun, which was precisely our plan. And to pull
Yep,
it off,
I'm on him.
I need to head down
see him.
to the Salk Institute in
running.
San Diego, California.
Over
Now,
here.
Salk is a
On
nonprofit
me.
biological research institute
He's running
founded
back to
by
the shed in the
Jonas
middle.
Salk. And my favorite thing about him is
Harry,
not
hold on.
necessarily that he discovered the cure for polio, but
Trying
that
to
after
be
doing so,
communicative.
he decided to forego
Bro,
the $3 billion
I'm on his
he would have
ass.
made by patenting the
Dog,
vaccine
like,
and
I'm on
instead
him.
made the
He's
cure
jumping out the well.
available
He's
for
going to the
free
basement now.
to
Oh,
everyone.
he just
And
jumped
that
down.
attitude of altruistic scientific curiosity
down the
permeates
well.
the institute still today, creating an environment for discoveries like the helical structure of
Yeah,
the
he just
DNA
went back into
molecule,
the well.
which
He
just
dove
so
in the
happens to
well.
be the exact reason we were here.
The technology we
Let's go to
work
the
with is
basement,
DNA
right?
origami.
Yeah.
We use DNA slightly differently from how it's used in biology.
This, by the way, is Paulav. He's a genius who runs his own lab here, and his passion about everything and anything biological is contagious.
I mean, don't get me started on bacteriophages. There's
Paul explained that if you want to build a house, you first need a blueprint
that's
that
where
has
he
all the
dove.
specific instructions
I
for
need to
how
close up
to
the
build
front of the
a
house.
And the equivalent of a house blueprint
Lock
in
the house
nature
'cause he
is
got
called
out.
DNA. Every single cell in your body has DNA that looks like this, with a complete set of instructions on how to build you. And that's DNA's only job in nature. But some of Paulov's predecessors asked an interesting question.
what if you use the DNA itself
Yeah.
as the building material?
So instead of using DNA just as the blueprint to give information to build something else, what if you effectively use that blueprint as a sheet of origami, telling you where to cut and fold so the blueprint itself becomes a tiny little structure? And here's how they actually do that.
So if you think of DNA, right,
Yeah.
it's two strands,
Yeah.
and they're usually complementary. So if you have an A here, you have a T here. If you have a C here, you have a G here.
Right.
And then when they come together, they kind of zip up. A binds with T, and C binds with G, and so forth, right?
Got it.
So if you have two complementary strands, they will zip up and form this familiar double helix.
Grandpa's in danger. He's
But
back
what
in
if
the fucking
they
house
weren't
again.
completely
Dude's up
complementary?
over there.
What
by
if
Grandpa.
like this part here
Yeah,
was
gone.
complementary to this part here, but then this part here was not complementary to this? But then you have these two flimsy parts that haven't paired up yet.
Right.
So now if you introduce a third part, for instance, that binds to these unbound parts,
Yeah.
you can create junctions, right? And those junctions, you could then branch them out and build them further into larger structures.
So using that principle, they start with a naturally occurring single-stranded DNA they call the scaffold strand, and on a computer, they design out the shape they want. Now as it stands here, there's nothing attached to the other side, so it would just lose its shape. But if you add in a bunch of what they call staple strands of DNA that are specifically designed to match the corresponding sections on the scaffold strand, they effectively lock it into the desired shape. So in theory, if you just put a random scaffold strand and then all the corresponding custom-made staple strands in a solution together at the right temperature, and then let it sit for a while, it would automatically self-assemble into an infinitesimally small Nerf gun made strictly from DNA. No way. But since you can't set a world record with just a theory, it was time to make some Nerf guns. So with a little help from Lauren and Amanda on Polym's team, we got right to work. Step 1 was to take a solution containing trillions of scaffolding strands of DNA, and then mix in another solution containing quadrillions of the staple strands of DNA. Then we place that magical mix into 8 individual tubes, and then place them in a special oven that would maintain the ideal temperature for the self-assembly process to occur, and we set a timer.
Okay, so you just come back in an hour and 20 minutes?
Yeah.
So easy. And I feel like I should pretend the whole process was harder than that.
Lock it.
Ready to eat. Ready to eat, yeah.
But when the timer was up, that was basically it. So after a quick final process of using an electric field to separate the successfully merged guns from all the strands that didn't successfully merge, you're left with a few drops of water containing 1.2 trillion of the world's smallest Nerf guns. For the final step, we just needed to prove to ourselves that they were actually in there. And that's where Jocelyn comes in.
We need help, Jocelyn. I'm told you are the person to make these seeable.
I can help with that, although there's no label on it.
And what's wild here is it's beyond the realm of physics to build a typical microscope powerful enough to see these, because our Nerf guns are 100 nanometers in length, which is 5 times smaller than the actual wavelength of visible light. So Jocelyn's using an atomic force microscope instead, where there's a super tiny probe that just drags back and forth on a surface, and when it encounters anything as small as a single atom,
it races back in the well.
And that deflection is measured using a laser. So if you drag that tiny probe back and forth enough, you sort of feel your way to revealing what can't be seen.
There's no way to get out.
So after a little while, Jocelyn returned, allowing me to now present to you a small sampling of the world's officially smallest Nerf guns, made entirely just of DNA.
Are you kidding me? Pretty freaking good.
And what blows my mind is that each of these is made from just a few thousand atoms. To comprehend just how small that is, if you laid them end to end, it would take 2,000 to fit across a single human hair.
I'm checking the gates around the house there.
So as I close out my visit, Paul let me know about how this project had sparked some ideas for his team.
If we can make specific Nerf blasters, or whatever you want to call them, DNA injection devices, and we can target particular kinds of cells, then we can make much more targeted treatments for a range of diseases. But in all of these therapies, you need to deliver the correct DNA. So how do you get those into the cells?
Nerf blaster.
Nerf blaster.
Okay, so this is really just the beginning. In a couple of years, we're going to come back to the sequel to this video. Does that make me a co-author on this paper?
Well, you definitely co-author on the paper.
Okay.
Downstairs in the basement.
And as I closed out the trip, I couldn't help but feel a little extra glimmer of hope for us humans. Because by giving them an admittedly ridiculous challenge, I got a tiny glimpse of the cutting-edge research happening at both BYU and the Salk Institute. And while a Nerf gun by itself won't do much to help humanity, it was a small reminder that millions upon millions of engineers and scientists in labs all around the world are dreaming up the big ideas.
I got tracks
working
outside.
hard right now to improve the lives of future generations by solving some of the toughest problems of our time. It's a sentiment possibly summed up best by Jonas Salk himself. Hope lies in dreams, in imagination, and those who dare to make.
He fell in the basement. I fucked him up hard though.
The black guy, I'm executing him because he dropped down by me.
Yep, that's who I was fucked up. I fucked him up bad.
He fucking, like, I'm rolling up, bam, he drops in the pit. And I'm right here.
Oh, I got her out here.
We'll have her drop down the pit.